everything that's happening here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'd say like hopefully Facebook will catch up, but we're 10 minutes in, and I know we want to kind of get through a good intro today and allow for some Q&A as well. So should we get started, Steve?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, awesome. Firstly, really just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Long overdue. We've been, Steve and I have really been excited about bringing the group together, getting this meetup started up again and doing it in a virtual format. And obviously there's been a ton of support and love out there for this group. And we're grateful, that everyone's taken some time here to come together. One thing that would be awesome as you're joining, if you could just like in the feed, maybe just let us know what market you're in. I recognize a lot of the names, but we had over 80 people register from right across North America, which is super cool. And I even think there was a few folks that were out of Europe and someone in Australia. So yeah, I would love to just kind of see where people are based. And obviously, one of the things we're trying to do here is really build a community, right? It's truly a virtual time. And anything we can do to kind of support each other, collaborate, that's one of the benefits that comes from these meetups. And this is something we definitely want to make a priority. So again, just, really thankful for everyone taking the time here. Our goal is to provide as much value as we can. We're going to kind of go as deep as we can into the topics that matter most to the group over the next several weeks. So looking forward to engaging with everybody. I know that Steve had also mentioned we have a Facebook group that we've started as well called the Virtual Real Estate Group. So kind of following the same name as the meetup. So definitely jump on there and join the group. And eventually we'll be streaming this content live in addition to just posting, regularly as much as we can. And our hope is that Facebook group will be a great platform for people to post questions about things that are going on in their business, and again, just leaning on this community as we all kind of scale it up. So yeah, and Steve just kind of posts in our Instagram, officially just Steve and Real Josh Alter. We're both trying to get a little more active on Instagram as well. And again, the goal is just to provide a ton of value. So would love to connect with you there. Quickly, just in terms of like some basic house rules. So this, I guess, technically is our first official webinar. So I apologize maybe if there's a little bit of technical or process difficulty as we go through this, but we would ask everyone, as we go through the presentation, any questions that you have, jot it into the chat. And then we have Sabrina on our team here who's going to take note of the questions, and then we'll address the questions at the end, because our feeling is that we'll probably cover a lot of the questions as we go through the presentation. I saw one about, how do we get buyers? We'll definitely talk about that in this presentation. But really the goal for today, this being the first session, is it's kind of a bit higher level. We'll talk a bit about, obviously who we are, how we got started, what our business looks like today. And then we'll touch on, each of the kind of the main functions of the business: marketing, virtual acquisitions, sales dispositions, transaction coordination. That'll all kind of fall into that. And then depending on kind of where we're at with time, we can also talk a little bit about some of the pivots that we've made in light of all the stuff that has happened in the last 6 or so weeks, and just close it out. Again, like the plan here is we're going to do a 6-series sort of meetup to start. And each subsequent meetup will go deeper into each topic. So this is, again, a bit more high level. We'll do our best to answer all the questions as they kind of get posted here, but we'll have a lot more time to dive into acquisitions, marketing, and all the other topics in the following meetups.
Can you make Sabrina a co-host, and then she can
yes.
And then she can watch the chat. Sabrina, I hope you don't mind. We kind of talked about that this morning. Sabrina's there she is. Sabrina's our transaction coordinator, just basically the glue that holds our company together and prevents us from crying most days. Yeah. And that's the true story. Hey, just to piggyback off Josh, like, we do want this to be interactive as well, right? But The thing about our social media platforms is that we are doing content, like we're producing content. My focus is a lot on mindset, as well as I guess both of our focuses on mindset, because that's like the number one thing that I think you need in this business. Those of you that have been in it and are in it, like, mindset's so super important. But also sales tactics, that's something. Communication is also something very big for us, because sales, anything in this industry really, and in life in general, is all about communication and how to be an effective communicator. So, we have different strategies, tips, tools, those sorts of things that we use in our business that we go through live. And when our business is actually all in the office where Josh is sitting and our guys are there and everyone's there, we'll actually do lives and go through, sales strategies, those sorts of things. So again, I encourage you to follow us on the social media. We've become a lot more active in it. In fact, we've hired someone to help us become more active in it, because we don't know what we're doing. Please, follow us, because we want to give back as much as possible. We also want to learn too. So
awesome. That's great, Steve. Thank you. All right. So I kind of touched on the agenda. So Steve, why don't you give them sort of like the high level background on who we are, how we got started, and then I can touch a little bit on what our team looks like today.
Right. So we've been best friends, dare I say best friends, for the last 15, 17 years. We can't ever get it right, but somewhere around there. And we live blocks from each other. I was Josh's best man at his wedding. I still have yet to get married. I'm engaged, but not yet married. So Josh has been prepping his speech for years now. Oh. I'm purposely not getting married just to make you wait. But so we've been best friends. So our kids are actually very close in age as well, our sons at least. And so really the way that this thing all started was a pancake breakfast. And a lot of you have heard this story before, but our boys were playing, and Josh had brought up this idea of legacy. And I don't know if it was like something about meaning or, having a purpose or something like that, but it was something that I had written down in my journal a couple nights before, and it was like legacy. And so the fact that we were having this conversation, was, first it was kind of just like, okay, well, I was thinking the same thing. Fast forward, that breakfast, that breakfast on a Saturday morning, he kind of just threw out this idea. He's like, hey, I got these 2 free tickets to this seminar, real estate seminar. Do you want to go? And I thought, okay, yeah, let's do it. A little bit reluctant because I'd have to miss work to do it. So I was not super excited about that. But anyways, we ended up going, and this whole idea of real estate investing came up. And I don't think at the time we really had any thought of becoming business partners at that stage, but certainly that's where the seed was planted. And then a few months after that, we found and stumbled across Sean Terry and Kent Clothier and Justin Colby. And pretty soon they became, we reached out to them, asked them if they'd ever worked with anyone in Canada before. All of the information that they had provided was very focused on US markets and doing business in your own market. And obviously us being from Canada, there wasn't, anything that we could really leverage here for Vancouver, because their system didn't supply it. And so basically, we signed up for their coaching. Long story short, we had tried doing a few things here locally. We really didn't know what we didn't know. Public records are obviously very hard to get here in Canada due to privacy legislation, those sorts of things. And we signed up for coaching. And from there, it was a bit of a messy scene. I mean, we were flip-flopping between, doing the work in Vancouver and, looking at different markets. And finally, our coach, our mentor, I should say, our coach, Justin Colby, finally had enough after about 4 months of us like overanalyzing everything, and just told us to pick a market. I think he was about close to dropping us actually as students if we didn't choose, right? And he's a
Yeah.
good friend of ours now, so we joke about it. But literally, we took 15 minutes and picked Austin, Texas as our market, and we've been there ever since. There's a few people on this webinar right now that were super helpful, like Rob Chambers, especially in the beginning. I remember speaking to Rob outside my 9 to 5 job in between meetings, and him helping us out a lot with one of our first deals. So that was the start of it for us, really. And we started this five years ago. We got our first deal in year one. I'd say probably about 9 months of that year, we were doing all the wrong things, like creating a website, doing business cards. And you have to remember, it's funny now, we're virtual at this stage, right? But we're getting business cards.
Yeah. Money well spent.
Yeah,
it,
it looked good
it
though.
legitimized. It felt like it legitimized.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, totally. And we ended up going to this Find and Flip Summit. It's what it was, right? Find and Flip, Kent.
Yeah.
In San Diego, and this was now 2016 or 2015. 2016.
2016, January 2016.
Yeah. And we had done one deal. I think we had a second one coming. And basically, after the event or during the event, asked a silly question, which we knew the answer to, and we're forced to come up with a quit date when we were going to quit our jobs in front of a bunch of people. So I immediately then thought, okay, well, let's quit in a month. And that gives me enough time to actually kind of figure out what the hell we're doing. And I ended up going back the next day, on Monday, and quitting my job, just because I thought like the pain of waiting was just too much. I wanted to get going, and Josh was shortly thereafter. He quit, a few months after, back in August. So, that's kind of just the how we got started. I don't want to take up too much time here, but I think the important thing for everyone to know is, we started this with very little money. In fact, we started it with debt. So that was big, right? Because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. We have mortgages and kids and family and bills and stuff like that. And so one of the biggest things for us was, you have to take that leap of faith. You have to burn the boats. You have to, trust in your ability to be able to do more and to get things done. You don't need to know all the answers, right? That's the big thing too, is that you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to know a general direction of where you want to go, and the rest will just kind of happen. I mean, we were like, what's a title company? Like, what do we do with a title company? Like, I'm telling you, like an ARV for us, comping properties took us hours. And so like, but just knowing a general direction of where you want to go, and that's really, and believing in yourself was really key for us in those early days, and still is today, right? As things change, COVID, all this stuff, same rules apply. So, we got started, not really knowing what we were doing. We started figuring things out along the way. And this concept of being truly virtual, a virtual company, really started becoming attractive for us. And at the time, 5 years ago, it wasn't something that was largely talked about. There was a few people that were, saying that they're doing deals remotely and things like that, but there was no training on it. There was nothing like there is today to kind of help people. And so the other thing, and I'll leave it here before I pass to Josh, is mentorship and coaching for us, right? I don't still to this day know where we would be if we didn't have some sort of person helping us along the way. If you want to think of it, it's like a compass, right? Someone who's actually navigated the waters beforehand. To this day, we still have coaches. We have Ken Clothier is one of our mentors and advisors, and he'll even say, like, he's not cheap, but there's value there for someone like that, especially in times like this, that it's priceless, really is, because you have someone that you can call and they're there for you, right? And they're like, no, don't do that, or focus on this, and it's just these little tweaks and adjustments. So those were the big things for us getting started, was just this belief and in the unknown, and just having faith, and an overwhelming sense of like, yeah, like, let's make this happen, right? And having the people backing you that have been there and done it, to say like, yeah, don't worry guys, like, just keep going, like, things will work. And just having that. So that takes us to our first year in business. We didn't really do a heck of a lot in that first year. It took us a while to get started, but we are where we are now, and it all has, like, so everyone has to start from somewhere, right? And that's where we started.
That's awesome, Steve. Yeah, I'm glad you went there, because I was gonna just touch on the power of like that circle of influence, right? And having the right people in your corner. And I think, part of the challenge getting started is there are so many resources and mentors and gurus out there. It's kind of like, it's almost like an overload, right? Of like what direction to go on, what program to sign up with. And ultimately, I think, perhaps we were maybe a bit lucky, but we found a group of mentors that aligned with us kind of at our core. And I think that was huge. And I think that has served us really, really well to this day, 5 years later. And doing this virtual, the ability to make those connections with people and align, in terms of your values, integrity, whatever it is that you stand for or stand against, is really, really important. And is part of what kind of helps you grow and scale. So, we were fortunate to, I guess you could say, pick the right mentors early on. And to this day, they're still in our corner. We can text with them. They're friends, right? And so if you're kind of looking at that sort of support, that's a good kind of barometer for you to maybe pick, who that group or mentor, mastermind, or what have you, like who's the right group to kind of guide you through. Because there's a lot of great, smart people out there. It's finding a group or an individual that really aligns with who you are. So I just wanted to make that point. And then I guess the other thing too is just in terms of, for Steve and I, he mentioned, we never kind of came at this initially with this idea of let's be business partners. But what was really clear very early on was this idea of kind of a why, that sort of that vision that we shared. That it's kind of formed like the basis of this company, and the people, that we're fortunate to now have on this team, the relationships we've built with our investors, our VIPs, all that stuff. Like, it resonates through all of that. And so getting clear on, why it is that you want to do this is really important, because it is a roller coaster ride for sure. Peaks and valleys, good days, bad days. But having a clear sense of what it is that drives you to want to go through this is really important. And fortunately, again, Steve and I had the friendship to fall back on, but we shared a lot of those common values and the purpose and all of that. So just wanted to kind of make that point too. So that hopefully gives everyone a kind of a general sense of kind of who we are. So again, 5 years in business. We've been virtual since the beginning. We're based in Vancouver, Canada. So where we are today now is we operate in 2 major markets. I guess technically you can say 3 major markets. Austin, Texas was our first. We're still, active in Austin. And we've since have grown the Central Texas market, which kind of takes us up into Waco. We've had the opportunity to do deals in a number of different markets throughout Texas, just due to joint ventures and things like that. But those are really the 2 kind of major markets that we operate out of Texas. And then we are also in Georgia, Atlanta, MSA, and some of the neighboring cities. So those would be our 3 major markets that we operate in. In terms of what our team looks like today, we have certainly evolved over the years. There was sort of this, I would say when we started, we were truly virtual, and then we went through this evolution of where we felt like, well, we were losing on opportunity. So, we went and hired a bunch of people locally in Texas, and we were basically had sort of created this company that very much was a Texas-based company. Steve and I were here. And so we were sort of this, I don't want to say like an identity crisis, but I remember someone posing a question to us: are we a virtual wholesale company, or are we just a local company that are managing this thing virtually? And it's a subtle difference, but we kind of, it's really what sort of sparked this idea of, well, can we truly do this virtual? Can we bring the core functions of our business centrally under one roof in Vancouver. And so we have sort of been going through this evolution. Now, what the team looks like today, so Sabrina, Steve introduced, has been with a couple of years. She is based in Texas, and she is incredible. We're really grateful to have her on the team. And then Lee Fedornik, who is basically our head of dispositions, is also based in Texas. Our core acquisitions team are all based here in Vancouver. So, and there was changes, like at one point we had 3 acquisition people down in Texas. We made the transition to bring those people here to Vancouver, primarily so that Steve, who leads the acquisition team, could really foster culture, develop, train, coach, and really just foster an environment that, you know, was conducive of, you know, what this bigger picture of what we're trying to create. So today, there's obviously Steve and I based in Vancouver. We have 3 acquisition guys, Devin, Tommy, and Lucas, Sabrina and Lee in Texas, and then our distributed team. So we have a team of cold callers based out of the Philippines, as well as an administrative marketing team that's based out of the Philippines. And then we have Bernardo, who is based in Central America, who's kind of sits in our dispositions team. So all in all, I guess, you know, there's the 7 North American team members, and then probably another 10 or 12 virtual team members. And that's basically our core team. I touched on the markets. I think
Josh, so there was just one question that ties in with markets. Is just how did we choose them?
How do we pick them?
Yeah, how do we choose our markets? And everyone, like, we are going to be going into specific buckets. Like, so marketing is going to be a session on its own. Dispositions, acquisitions, transaction coordination, systems and operations. So there's going to be very specialized meetups for each one of these categories, which we'll get into this stuff at a very granular level, and we will open up like, hey, like, look, this is like our procedure for this. This is our system for this, and so you can pick and choose what it is that you want from that. So this first one is just to give you an overview of our business, but we will try our best to get to some of these questions here that are a little bit more specific to certain things.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll answer most of the questions at the end, but in terms of the market selection, since I just touched on our major markets. So Steve mentioned when we first got started, it was quite literally probably an hour of research, Forbes top 10 list, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Houston. There's basically on the top 10, 4 cities in the state of Texas were all on that list. So we said, well, Austin seems like a cool city. And we basically said, let's give it 6 months and give it a shot. Now, fast forward, you know, obviously we know a lot more. We know some of the things you need to look at. Obviously, there's the economics of a market. We want to be in a market that has a sizable population. We want to be in a market where there's a decent amount of inventory. So looking at things like the MLS as an example, is there a decent amount of volume of retail product on the market? Is a good indication. We look at price points, right? So, you know, we don't typically want to be in markets where the average price point, at least for us, is, you know, $500,000 plus. I know there's San Fran and these other big markets where there are some successful wholesalers, but for us, you know, we have found more success in sort of that mid-tier city, albeit Austin, I guess, is technically considered a sub-market because of its size. The price points are still sort of 200 to 400K. Atlanta is a bit lower than that, probably more in like the 100 to 150K price point. So we like those price points. That sort of product tends to turn a little more quickly. There's a larger investor pool. So we look at that. And then I'd say 2 other things to consider in picking a market, looking at investor activity. And one of the easiest ways to do that is looking at cash transactions. And I will post, when we talk maybe on the sales and dispo meetup, I'll maybe do a bit of a presentation on how you can leverage list source as an example to actually use some free research to really nail down on investor activity. So you basically stack those different variables together, and it gives you a prioritization of what cities to go in. The other thing that I would add, and I think probably this is the most important thing, is having a relationship, someone that you trust. It might be a wholesaler, it could be a realtor, it might be an investor. but somebody in the market that you're looking at, that you can connect with, that give you some of that local knowledge. Because as much as you can research and pull stats and all sorts of stuff, talking with somebody that's local to a market that can really help you break into that market will really help you, because there are certainly times where you need that local person, boots on the ground. And you know, for us, that was really the driver for moving into Atlanta. Is we had a strong relationship in Texas that was also well positioned in Atlanta, and we were able to leverage that relationship to basically prioritize zip codes and our marketing, and really kind of get our feet wet as we started to build up our buyers list. So
Yeah,
those are
there's
just,
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about marketing, everyone. So,
yeah.
look, yeah, I mean, we'll get into this in much more detail. I promise you. Also, just encouraging you not to ask the questions in the chat. There's a quite Q&A box that you can ask questions in. So perhaps look at using that for questions. But yeah, there's a bunch of different little things that you can look at. At the end of the day, this is where it all comes down. Like you make a decision and then you go with it, right? And then you see it through. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be challenges. There's competition. We've heard every excuse in the book as far as why a market is bad. There is no bad market, right? There's just a bad attitude, really. And you just got to keep going, right? And you got to make those relationships, and it takes time. So, you know, we'll talk about it in more detail after the meeting or in our marketing session for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. So we've talked about kind of how we started, what our company looks like today. The only other point I wanted to make in terms of, you know, where we are today, and one thing, especially virtual, but really this applies to any organization, is just around accountability. And I just wanted to make that point, because we've learned this, and we continue to refine accountability and how we communicate as an organization, and especially being a distributed company. Having sort of a clear accountability chart, understanding who is responsible for what as it relates to escalations and questions, will save a lot of grief. And we continue to talk about this as an organization. Communication is really important to us, but it's not perfect. We leverage different tools to try and improve that. But at a minimum, having clear accountability is really, really important as you start to scale up your company. So I just wanted to make that point. A great book that touches on that is Traction. A lot of people have probably heard about it. And it really kind of breaks down how to actually go about creating an accountability chart, which is not driven by an individual, but by roles in your company. And then obviously you assign people to those roles. So, but a really, really good book I recommend in terms of just like the structure and process of how to build up a company. So I'm going to transition now. I'll talk on marketing, Steve, maybe just for a few minutes, and then why don't you touch on the acquisition process? Because I know a lot of people have questions on how you guys get contracts over the phone. So marketing, I guess, in parallel to acquisition is you know, the top two most important functions of the business, right? And as a wholesaler, which is our core business, understanding your marketing in detail is the lifeline. And we have, you know, made a lot of mistakes in outsourcing this function to different vendors, where we lost visibility, and it really, really hurt us. And so we are now, you know, where our business is today, we have effectively taken full control of that, meaning it's managed in-house. We have obviously vendor relationships that help us fulfill on the different sorts of campaigns, but staying close to your marketing as a wholesaler is very, very important. In terms of the different types of marketing that we do, we've really kind of done it all. Direct mail is how we got started. We do a lot of joint venture, and that is a big anchor for us in terms of growing a virtual company. We have really scaled up our cold call team, and that is something that has proven to be our top performing channel. We have a full team, I don't know, 5 or 6 cold callers full time that Steve manages. They are part of our team. That has really kind of proven to be an effective marketing channel for us. We also do a lot of SMS. And again, we'll get into we'll break down this marketing in a much more detail. I just want to kind of touch on what's working for us right now. And we do SMS both at scale, but also on a more kind of targeted follow-up drip campaign basis. So I kind of feel like there's an opportunity for both, depending on the list that you're hitting, whether you're going broad or you really want to kind of get into those niche lists. And so we really kind of look at SMS in two channels. And we still do a bit of direct mail, albeit we have phased that back quite a lot from past, just simply because we weren't seeing the ROI. And getting into a cold call situation or SMS situation, our connection with the seller is much quicker. And so we've just found our ability to go from that point of initial contact with a lead to actually converting a contract is a fraction of the time. I think, Steve, we were looking, it was like 10 days or something like that from the point of connecting with a viable lead to contract. We could basically work that seller through our process and get to contract within 10 days, which is massive. Like that's one of those levers that if you can tweak it, can really impact your ability to convert.
Yeah, so that's what was happening last month.
Last month, oh sure, things have changed.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer of a delay there now, but yeah,
yes.
It was. Yeah. And then from that, we were able to get it to close with in escrow everything within about, I think it was 28 days.
Yeah.
So it was a 28-day process from beginning to end. And so that's how, like, dialed in. We got our cold call team going, and then obviously with what's happened here, it's changed things a bit. So we've had to adjust, and we don't have the answer right now for what's going on in the marketing, other than we're trying things constantly. We're moving things around and trying different things. And yeah, it's slowly starting to come around and work again. It's only been a month, so.
Yeah, I see Jeff had a quick question just in terms of the MLS. We have experimented with the MLS. We have done deals off the MLS. Most of those opportunities come through relationships we have with realtors. The majority of our lead generation is true off market, either outbound, right, through our SMS campaigns or cold call campaigns, or inbound, in response to direct mail or RVM campaigns that we'll do occasionally. PPC, those sorts of channels. In the past, we've done more of. We'll be scaling some of that stuff back up, but it's a combination of inbound and outbound. But we really try to focus on off market.
So here's actually something that I was just doing today that touches on this too. When I'm looking and evaluating properties, one of the things obviously we're doing is we're looking up, what's selling in the area, and given what we're faced with right now, and some of the I guess challenges that homeowners are faced with in terms of showings, and retail buyers are a little bit more reluctant right now to buy. So is actually going through and then finding those properties that are similar to the one that you're talking to, and reaching out to those agents. And I basically just keep it very simple. I said, look, I came across this property while comping another property that we're looking at, and I wanted to see if there was an opportunity to, if the sellers would be interested in, or would be willing to accept a lower offer on their property if we could get it done quickly. And I got a couple of responses being like, no, they're looking for top dollar. Well, that's fine. If you know of anyone that's interested, let us know. But I got a couple that said, yeah, shoot me over an offer. And I sent them over the formula that we'd be looking at as far as a rental kind of formula, a rent rate formula. And so that's a way to find property while you're comping a property. Look for others and just take the email address and send the email. Copy paste. Takes a couple minutes.
Last point I'll make on marketing, and we'll hand it over to Steve on the acquisition front. Just the importance of knowing your numbers is another must. It's a non-negotiable, and there's certain KPIs that we look at real close in terms of things like cost per lead, cost per deal, average deal size. We'll break that stuff down in much more detail when we do our marketing meetup, but we're very religious about this stuff, in terms of dashboards and scorecards. It's, we look at it. Well, I look at the marketing on a daily basis as a management team. Steve and I look at it on a weekly basis. We have scorecards as a team that we review weekly, where we're looking at leads and opportunities and those sorts of things. But really having a good grasp of some of those key performance indicators, those key metrics, is super important, so that you can anticipate, right, and kind of get ahead of these trends, right? And without that, you kind of get blindsided and realize, this is firsthand. Thinking back to that boardroom we went to, Steve, where we were looking at our average deal size and our cost per deal, and because we did so many JV deals, it misrepresented our profitability as a company, when in reality all of our paid marketing channels was producing basically a negative ROI. And we didn't really know this until we broke down the numbers in detail and realized that if it wasn't for all that JV revenue that came in, those joint venture deals, which again is really at zero cost of acquisition for us, who knows what would have happened, right? So it's just a good idea to really understand those numbers, have a basic scorecard system in place, and the sooner you can kind of set that foundation up, the better. And there's tons of great content out there on how to do this, but we'll get into that when we go over marketing. I think that's actually going to be our next meetup. So cool. You want to talk acquisitions, Steve?
Yeah. Okay. So acquisitions. I mean, this is where I've been living for the last 5 years. Previous to this, I'd been in sales. Both Josh and I had been in sales, and Josh property management after that, but not property management, project management for a development company. But sales has really kind of been my thing from when I did not graduate university to now. I found myself in sales, and what I love about it is that it's really like you're in control of your destiny with sales, right? Like what you produce is really up to you, and it's all about communication. So for us, like the philosophy of sales, and this is something when I go and look to answer some of the questions here, hopefully I can get to them. When hiring for salespeople, and I don't like the word salespeople because it has this connotation to it, but is that it's all about communication. In my opinion, it's all about, like, one of the biggest things. It's about communication and people wanting to be better and become better. And having someone that has quote unquote a lot of sales experience doesn't mean anything. As a perfect example, we hired someone with no sales experience. He's 21 years old. And he started with us, and within the first week after his training, which was about a week and a half, he was getting 2-3 contracts under his belt. And he's just an effective communicator, and he has the ability to take what we tell him and implement it. Lucas, who also started with us, 3-4 years ago, actually we found us through a meetup, and that we ended up hiring him. He started with us at 19.
18.
No sales
18.
18. So no sales experience, right? Devin, who is working with us, I don't know if he had sales experience either. He had real estate background. He knew real estate investing and was doing some stuff in Texas as well. And that's how we found him. But all of the people, most of them anyways, had no sales experience. And so we find them through things like this, for one, doing, social media stuff and that sort of thing. Meetups are a great way to find acquisitions people. We ran a group assessment day, which is where we found Tommy. And so like we had a company, we outsourced our recruitment to a company, and they brought in, individuals based on behavior. It was mostly behavioral assessments that we were focused on, because as most of you know, in this sort of industry, you need to have the right mentality. It doesn't matter how good you are as a salesperson. If you don't have a proper mindset, you're not going to do well, because there's, ebbs and flows and, title issues that come out of nowhere, and things that can really, really trip people up. So the philosophy for us is like the mindset, the communication is key. And that really, when you come into our organization, you are a family member. You're part of the team. You're part of the tribe. We're not going to leave you behind. Like, we're there to pick people up, right? And yes, numbers are important, but at the end of the day, Josh and I take personal responsibility for the success of our people. 100% all the time. It's up to us, right? And and there's a certain level of accountability that goes both ways. But at the end of the day, we're responsible, and so we take ownership over that. And I think it goes both ways. If you ask the team too, they'd say, "We got your back, guys." And that's the kind of culture that we built. And it doesn't matter if they're local or if they're in Texas or in the Philippines or in Latin America. Like, everyone's got each other's back, and that's the beautiful thing. But you create that as a business owner. Okay, that's something that you create. You have to create that vision. You have to create that dream, that dream that is so big that multiple people can fit in it, and they can put their own dreams in it, right? And that's what's important. So when hiring for acquisitions people, hiring for salespeople, like, they are thinking that. Like, you need to be able to communicate and articulate what that is in order to attract the best people. The other thing that we say is that, look, we're here to impact people, right? We're here to have some sort of impact on someone's life. Like, you think you're coming in here for a job, but you're not coming here for a job. You're coming here to get better, a better person, professionally, personally. Like, we want you to come into work knowing that you're improving every single day. And that's kind of the philosophy that we hold. We hold each other to that standard. That's something that's super important to us. Personal development. Josh, I don't know about you, but that was the last thing I thought I was getting myself into when coming into this business. And it's probably the thing that I'm most grateful for getting, because I had no idea what kind of test as a human being getting into this sort of business is going to cause. Like, starting a business is not easy to begin with. But it's tested every little bit of me, man. And so, like, the thing that I look back on is, like, this has just created me. This has helped me become a better person, a better father, a better husband. Well, not yet husband, fiance. Just overall, just better. I have my days. I'm human. So does Josh. But we're better people because of this. So it's super important for everyone in our business to have this, especially when hiring acquisitions. So to kind of encompass that hiring process, you need to know where you're going, what you're about, and you got to be very clear with it, because in any sales job, if you're unclear, they're unclear. And if you don't know your numbers, if you don't know, all these other things, then, like, they don't know, and you won't be able to retain and keep your people. And through these hard times, there are, peaks and valleys, right? So through the valleys, this is what keeps people going. This is what keeps me going, right? Is knowing that I'm there for them too, and they're there for us, and we're in it together. So our acquisitions process, we've got it. We've tried a number of different things, and again, this is something we're going to dig way more into. But we have a system down now that works. It's taken us some time to get there. We've done a lot of tweaking and new implementations and things like that, but we have an automated system now that basically, the cold call team funnels leads into. Our acquisitions team is speaking with people that have raised their hand and basically said, yeah, you know what, we're interested in speaking with one of your people. And we just have them, on a system that automatically dials based off the lead source. And I know that there's going to be a lot of questions that come up with that. So certainly we will get into that. That's kind of an operations, systems, acquisitions thing. So we'll be talking a lot more about that in the weeks to come. But as far as acquisitions go, like, we have a system in place where, we have a script that we follow, and it's all set up around behavior, human behavior. A lot of what we talk about is obviously about the property, but we want to know the solution. We want to know what the problems are that the people are facing, because ultimately, if you're going to be successful in this industry, you have to solve problems. You are a problem solver. And if you're not effective at solving people's problems, you're not going to get deals, or as many as you could. So our scripts, our training, everything is about communication and becoming better problem solvers, and really helping people identify what is their true problem? Because most of the time people don't even know what their issues are. They're so used to like this automatic response. Why do you need to sell? I'd like to sell. Okay, well, and you go layers deep and you find out more and more and more about why they want to sell. And next thing you know, they're about to lose their house. And, like you need to help those people, right? And oftentimes, if you just skip over that, you won't get there. Comping properties, we comp properties over the phone while speaking to sellers. A little trick that we use is just to kind of get a general idea, sense of what our offer, what offer range we should be in. Is we look at cash comps, right? So what are cash sales in the area that are close by our property that look the same as our property? And that gives us a very general idea of like, okay, well, roughly where do we need to be when speaking with the seller? And we'll throw out that anchor price. A great book, person that I've come to love. One day we'll meet is Chris Voss. His book, Never Split the Difference, is a phenomenal book, not on just sales, but negotiation, but also just about communication in general and how to communicate with people. Phenomenal book. Other sales trainings that we've done, John Martinez, a lot of you know who he is. Highly recommend his training. I'll throw up a link somewhere here later, but these sorts of trainings are constant, they're continual, and they're something that our people do, and it's expected of them to do, along with ourselves. I mean, something we do as well. So we have an integrated technology platform. I won't go too much into that right now, because there's a lot to it. But at the end of the day, like our goal is to give virtual offers, and our goal, knowing what the outcome is on every phone call, our outcome is that we're giving offers and we're sending contracts over that initial phone call. Yes, you can lock deals up on one phone call. Okay, it's been done. We've done it. I know other people have. Yes, you can. We've had situations where literally there's been a person, the guy's like, I gotta go because there's an appointment coming in right now that is interested in this house. And we've kept them on the phone saying like, look, what is it going to take for us to get this deal done? And have them accept the contract over the phone and have the other person turn around. And, those aren't like every single day. They're far and few in between, those sorts of situations, but they do happen. But the longest that we ever have a contract sitting out there is a few days. And if someone's not ready to sign, they're not ready to sign, we'll move them to a follow-up bucket and continue to work on people that are ready to sign. So a lot there with the acquisitions process. We do a lot, viable lead to close contract. I'm seeing these questions now. Again, these are things that we will come to, and we'll get hopefully to answer some of them later. I don't want to take up too much time with this, but I mean, the acquisitions process, the virtual act, you've got to get super comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you are losing sight, right? You're not seeing someone, you're not seeing the property, you're not physically there. You lose all sense of body cues, so you have to be super dialed in on listening to auditory cues, like you're hearing and like you're just almost like visualizing being there with the person is what gets you through this. And you'll be surprised. I often think of it like this. When you become super hyper focused on other senses than your visual, you will pick up on things that you will not pick up on when you're meeting with someone in person. And the reason being is your eyes move and they're always looking for things, right? And it's distracting. But when you're forced to listen to someone and you actually listen to what they're saying, that is game changer, because most people don't do that. And being virtual allows you the opportunity to. So I'll stop there. I'm trying to get through as much as I can right now, but I could keep going on. Josh knows this. I'm looking forward to the acquisitions process. I might even bring, maybe a few people in on that one to help discuss it, because it is, it's a huge part. And it's something that Josh and I, early days, neglected. We hired someone from a company to do our acquisitions.
Yeah, no, that's great.
We didn't even know our numbers. Like, we didn't know anything, and we hired someone to basically help us like get deals, and it almost cost us. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And you know, the acquisition meetup will go deep. I think it would be pretty cool for you to kind of go through an actual demo of how you comp a property and all that stuff too, because I think that's something that people get hung up on. And we, you know, to your earlier point, it would take both of us, you know, an hour or two to comp a property, where now our guys are literally multitasking, talking to a seller, going deep with their motivation, and comping a property in real time, which is pretty awesome. So there's some great tools available, and the systems and stuff that we've integrated now really give us that information to be able to go deep quickly with people. So no, that's great. Awesome. Thanks, you. So I'll touch on the sales and dispositions, which I oversee currently in the company. So obviously this is dealing with, you know, once we get a contract as a wholesaler, obviously our business lies in our ability to basically resell that contract to the investors we work with. So one of the big points I wanted to make here is this idea of reverse wholesale, and Kent Collier coined this phrase, and we really have adopted this philosophy into how we build our buyers list, albeit we at times have relaxed on this, and it has costed us, right? Understanding your buyers and starting with your buyers in mind is probably one of the most important things as you start to open up into new markets, even more so before you start marketing to sellers and talking to sellers. Having an understanding and even a small list of buyers that you get to know well will really help with your success. And again, you know, these are lessons learned for us. Even looking at Atlanta, you know, 6 months ago, we opened up that market, and we kind of lost sight of that. We kind of hit it hard on the front end, marketing, acquisitions. We were signing a whole bunch of contracts, but we never really fully understood our buyers, nor did we have a large enough buyers list. And so our fallout rate was much higher than what we were used to. So really getting to know your buyers, starting with kind of them in mind, building out that avatar will really help you as you start to scale up in other areas of your business. So I wanted to start there. In terms of building our buyers list, we kind of do a combination of things. The joint venture opportunity, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways for you to get into a new market. You know, again, establishing a relationship or relationships with a few key wholesalers that already have a buyer's list is going to be a great way for you to learn about a market and sell your deals with a higher degree of confidence. So definitely getting some of those relationships in place right away is important. Social media has been huge for us. Really there's, you know, dozens and hundreds of real estate groups on Facebook, and it's a really easy way for you to start to connect and network with investors in any market. Any decent market's going to have these forums. We now actually have a VA that spends 4 hours a day just scraping Facebook groups. He's on there, he's direct messaging, you know, on other people's feeds, trying to connect with new buyers, and he's adding, I think, on average 20 new cash buyers to our list every single day in our markets. And then that basically is a handoff to our disposition team to go deeper and getting to know those buyers. But social media, really, really quick way for you to build up your list, posting these groups, looking to connect with people, and you'll very, very quickly, you know, be able to grow up your list. Direct mail has also proven to be pretty effective for us. It doesn't produce the same volume and obviously comes at a cost. The difference, though, is in sort of the psychology of how you connect with this buyer, because they are calling you, right? And so it sort of has changed the dynamic of the conversation. And I've found personally that when the calls come in, it puts you in more a position of authority in that conversation where you can really set the expectation. And that is definitely an important thing for you to do as a wholesaler. One of the things you can find, because there are a lot of wholesalers out there, but there are not a lot of quality wholesalers out there, in my opinion. Many of the wholesalers out there are just chasing that next deal, and wholesalers have sort of gained a bit of a rap with some investors because of that. And so setting the tone for that relationship with your buyer from the beginning, you know, that mutual respect, communication, feedback that you need as a wholesaler to be effective is really, really important. And, you know, whether it be the direct mail buyer lead coming in or through these other channels, we always make sure we take people through sort of a qualification questionnaire. We explain our process. we set the expectation of what we need in exchange for going out and finding them deals. And that will really help you out, because the last thing you want is, to be sending out all these deals and it's crickets. You get no feedback, and the acquisition team is having a difficult time, understanding why the deals aren't moving, and you want to be able to basically bridge that gap. So direct mail, social media, JVs have been really good channels for us to build up our buyers list virtually. And then the fourth, which we've more recently implemented in the last few months, is the MLS. So one of the things that we do when we get a deal is we'll go and pull a list of cash transactions, within say a quarter mile of our property, and we'll get the list of all the realtors involved. We'll then go and look up county records to identify who was the actual buyer involved in that transaction, and then we'll pull all that information together, and basically call, email, text to try to basically make contact with these new relationships and sell our deals. And so that's another really effective way to grow your buyers list, and and also just emphasizing the value of realtors. Like, that is a really effective way to help sell your deals, because obviously they're connected with buyers. So those are really the four ways in which we've grown our list, and we continue to grow our list, and ultimately helps us sell our deals. A couple other just small things I'll touch on, because I know a lot of people have questions around things like, well, once you get a contract, how do you get pictures? How do you coordinate showings when you don't have a local team member? We've done a bunch of different things. One of the I guess strategies is really leveraging your buyers. Again, the value of knowing your buyers, having that that list of VIPs that you can call when you get a deal. Even before contract, we do this occasionally. We'll connect with the VIP and basically say, hey, we got this hot lead, or we have this contract we just signed. We haven't been in it, but we can give our buyers a first right of refusal on the deal. So they'll basically go and look at the property for us. They'll take a bunch of pictures. If they want the deal, fantastic, it's theirs. And if not, then we can leverage the photos and everything that they've taken and use that to remarket out.
And get a more accurate idea of the scope of repair, right? And
Yes.
and that provides a lot of value, because now, as a wholesaler, like, we're not general contractors, and we don't do this, right? So oftentimes wholesalers, they're sending out, okay, these marketing campaigns, and they're putting estimates in there as far as what they figure the rehab is. And albeit, like, it's subjective, right? Based on, the person, the buyer, like, they could have their own crew, it could cost them material, so there's a range there that happens, but you can feel more confident in that. And I will say, one of the most important things here about buyers and working and really knowing your VIP buyers is that you can go shopping for them, like, to this point of reverse wholesaling. So for instance, we're working on a property right now in Austin, and one of the people that we've been working with on many, many properties, we got a property that, is basically her buy box. And we can call her up and say, look, we're going to have one crack at this opportunity. Is this something that you're going to want? Because there's going to be other people, bidding on this property. Do you understand the leverage that gives you, right? Because you're going in now with your buyer, who is going to be competing with a bunch of other wholesalers, and your buyer is going in there saying, I can close on this property, right? And the level of confidence that gives you and your ability to negotiate an offer, but also the confidence that it gives the seller when you say that, like, look, our buyer is going to be there. Our buyer, and we have the relationship with our buyers that we can trust them, right? We have that relationship. So that is a huge, huge thing that if you're not doing it, I encourage you to do that, because in a virtual world, like, that now is like leveraging other people and them, like, it's super effective, and you'll get way more deals done that way.
That's awesome, Steve. And another, in addition to the buyers, you can also create similar relationships with other wholesalers. And that,
Right.
When we got started, that was also how we were able to bridge that gap. There's a few specific wholesalers that, we'd either JV with, or they, in some cases help us get a contract signed. They'd represent a showing for us.
And we still work with them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure
Yeah.
we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll bring us buyers, you name it, right? Or we'll reach out for insight. So it's really, it comes down to the relationship, right? And you don't need, thousands and thousands of buyers, right? You need a handful of good buyers that are buying a few properties a year, and that can very easily become a seven-figure wholesale company. So it's about going deep and getting in front of those quality buyers that really can kind of make a difference in your wholesale company. So, but again, we'll kind of break this down in a future meetup. We'll also kind of get more deep into how we actually market out our deals, the different channels that we tap into. We'll talk through our SOP, our procedure around that, because we have a lot of that, pretty well documented, so that once a deal is signed, it basically goes through a series of steps to make sure that we can get our deal out to the market as quickly as possible, which always starts with our VIPs. So, yeah, so that's kind of sales and dispo. I think the last thing, Steve, we had here is just around pivots, in light of what's happening. We got a couple things I guess we wanted to talk about. I'll just touch on the buyer piece because we're just falling off on the dispo section here. And what the one thing that I've really, what we're focusing on right now in terms of dispo is just going deeper with our buyers. And what you realize when these sorts of things happen is that it really starts to weed out a lot of the filler, that you've kind of built up in this buyer list. For example, in Texas, we have several thousand people on our list, but the reality of it is that a small percentage of those people are quality buyers that are actively buying, that are waiting for this opportunity. And so leveraging what's happening out in the market right now to go deeper with those relationships is one of the things that we've really prioritized. The other shift that we've made is we are establishing relationships with larger buyers, institutional buyers, hedge funds, groups that have the capacity to really move quickly, and give us the confidence that we need to continue to scale and drive our marketing and acquisition efforts. So that's been a really big push for us over the last 6 weeks. We've established a half dozen good relationships with fund groups that are buying 30, 40 properties a month right now, which also kind of helps us in terms of our capacity. So it's not necessarily having to make 60, 70 calls to sell a deal. It's a handful of calls to sell a deal. We probably should have done this sooner, but we're doing it now, and it's really going to set us up, as we continue to scale and move into other markets. So those are a couple things that that we've started to do on the dispo side to basically address some of the changes that are happening in the market.
Yeah.
So
Oh, the word pivot. Hey, I don't know if I've heard that word. I've heard so many times in the last month. It's like pivot. Everyone's got to pivot.
Yep.
Yeah. Like here's the thing: is that nobody really knows what to expect. What the next month or month and a half, 2 months are going to look like. So everything we're doing is somewhat calculated based off of experience, and again, like leveraging people who have gone through similar things like this, or I don't know if there's really anything similar to this, but like recessions and things like that, market corrections. And that's like where leveraging, for us, like, having that mentorship, having that coaching for us is huge, because they have they have more experience than we do, and we're always looking to improve and get better. So that's super helpful for us right now. It's like, okay, well, how can we innovate, right? How can we use this? Like, these are the questions that we're asking ourselves. Like, how can we be better at what we're doing? How can we innovate? How can we do things differently, smarter? And like Josh, like we've been working harder these last 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's like starting from like scratch again, almost, in many ways. Right. And we've had, like, I threw up an Instagram video, IGTV today, just talking about, like, sometimes you got to just accept it and like go through the shit. And like we've had, I think it was close to about $60,000 in business, not close this month because of, COVID. And, and that's just the reality of it. It's not just us, it's everyone that's facing these sorts of things. So you have to be agile. You talk about pivots. I mean, the big thing right now is just, I really feel it's like, okay, accepting what's going on and then figuring out solutions, understanding the problem and then try to come up with something creative. It may or may not work all the time, but you are going to find something that is different as a result of that, and it's going to better your company. So some of the things that we're forced to do that we weren't doing before is, we're doing more videos, right? And, this is something that, the guys are having a bit of difficult time with. I'm calling them out because if they're on here right now, I'm speaking to you. But it's like, these videos with sellers and these follow-up campaigns, we're doing this really cool thing, which, our Podio guru, has told us, he's like, guys, I don't think anyone's doing this. And we have this follow-up campaign that we're going to do that is like, would not have come from us doing if the market was the same and everything was going, we may have come to this sort of, in the future, but this has forced our hand to think differently. And how can we be more creative in getting in front of sellers? How can we innovate this? Like everyone's going virtual right now. How can we do it better than everyone else? How can we do it better? How can we be quicker? How can we do all these different things, right? And so for us, it's really forced our hand in innovation, which I think both of us really love. It can be frustrating as sometimes because you want those deals, you want the quick closes, you want the things to happen. And that's really where you got to adjust your expectations to kind of align with what's happening right now and hold, going back to the very beginning of this call, when we were talking about just having faith, right? Just having that blind faith that as long as you're moving forward and you're doing the work, you're going to be okay. And, that's a huge thing for us, right? Because it's uncertain. But, I think a lot of us know now, there's so much in the uncertainty that is super valuable. And that's where true wealth is created. So, we're always looking to provide value. One of the biggest things for us in this time, this webinar is actually a direct result of this situation that we're all faced with, because we've gone through a lot in our 5 years. We've made a shit ton of mistakes. We've learned a lot. We've been able to scale and grow despite, us trying to blow things up. And we've been able to be successful. And, the one thing that, for us is that we want to give back. We want to have impact on people. We want to open up, this idea of this tribe that Josh talked about, this community of people that are all kind of working together to get things done, because in this day and age, that's something that's really needed, right? It's not about competition. It's like, well, how can we all band together and to help each other improve, to get better, to do more deals, those sorts of things. So it's like leveraging one another for that greater purpose, that greater cause, right? So we can all achieve those dreams. That's the kind of thing that we're doing right now. I mean, Josh is sitting in an office that we moved into the day the state of emergency was declared. I mean, we haven't even really been in the office. I think, that's
6 weeks without stepping foot.
Yeah, so great timing, right? We just increased our overhead significantly by office space, and we can't even really go in there. So, but this is the stuff that you'll remember. It's how did we get through this, right? And that's the stuff that we'll be grateful for. Josh, if we had to start all over again.
I think it's kind of been this mantra that we've been talking about, this idea of speed, right? And I think, we've just kind of overcomplicated it at times. And I feel like if I had to start it all over again, just moving faster, right? And having more faith that, there's really no situation that can't be corrected if it goes in the wrong direction. And the reality of it is you make a decision, you go, you measure, you correct. And it's just this constant cycle that you go through as you evolve as a business. And I think I don't know if we got comfortable or maybe we got scared or what.
Probably scared.
Probably scared. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree. Right. And so, and it's interesting because I've been thinking about this too. Like even in the last, you know, week or two, like I've seen a slight shift in my mindset. Whereas like the first 4 weeks when this happened, is like, yeah, like so much opportunity. And then I found myself, and I put a post this morning about this idea of like feeling a bit helpless, right? And it's like the best thing you can do is just go out and help someone else to kind of get out of that. And so I kind of found myself falling into this like, oh, like, do we need to pull back on the marketing when like even a week ago it's like, let's triple down, let's quadruple down, and all these big conversations we're having. So at least now I can kind of catch myself, I think, much more quickly than I could a few years ago. But yeah, I think it's speed. Like it's, you know, beyond surrounding yourself with the right people and the right mentors, taking, like, if people talk about action, 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 it's just moving real fast, make a decision. You're not going to have, maybe you have 50% of the answer, but just go as quickly as you can. And just make sure you got the right people in the corner so you can make quick, I won't say pivot, but quick adjustments along the way. And I hear you though. A lot of people are saying pivot. So yeah, speed for me is speed. Just moving fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Speed is great. And it's just like, you know, one thing that you said there, Josh, that I want people to really, like, I really want this to resonate with you and to be super clear. So it's just that you're not going to have the answers, right? And oftentimes the things that have prevented us from moving forward is having that fear, right? And the thing that, you know, you can't have faith and you can't have fear at the same time. Okay, it's impossible. You either have faith or you don't have faith. And oftentimes, like, even in this situation, and Josh, like, you know, like I've felt that way too over the last 4 weeks, right? Like, we, as of last week, we had like $50,000 in business closing this week.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Like,
know.
and that hurts. Like, that does, like, it kind of like, okay, well, what the hell is going on here? And it's not closing this week, and some of them we won't be able to get back. um, but that's okay. Like, because you either have faith or you don't. You're either in fear or you're in faith, and that's just a choice. Um, and so that's a huge thing. I think for me, you know, the value of, you know, having coaches and mentors and going to masterminds and learning is super important. And you know, if I had to start all over again and do this again, it would be along the same lines Josh is just, you know, going and just doing, because there's something to be said about just being in action, right? And
Yeah.
trusting more of the intuition, because, you know, had we done what we thought we wanted to do back 3 years ago, you know, we would have done this virtually in a different way like we are now
Yeah.
then, right? But we started listening to other people, and we started listening to what they were doing, almost so much so that we started doubting ourselves and what we were wanting to do. And we started adopting other people's visions of their companies and putting them into ours. And then it wasn't congruent. Things didn't feel right for us. And we struggled for a couple of years, not necessarily from a financial aspect per se, but from like an identity crisis. Like, what are we? Who are we? Josh took me to many coffees, like almost crying because he didn't know what he was doing. And
You're not supposed to share that stuff.
oh, okay.
Yeah, you see me cry a few times. Thanks for burning up.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm being funny, but
Oh,
like
I
that's
got
the
you.
kind of thing that, like, we were like, what are we doing? And it's just, never felt right until one day. It was in November of 2018. We were at dinner, and we asked ourselves a very simple question. I encourage everyone to ask yourself the same question: are you happy? Right? Because if you're not happy right now, then what are you doing? You've got to change things up, because you have one crack at life, right? Like, this is your one shot at it. And if you are not happy with the current state of your business, if you find that you're doing stuff that isn't what you want to be doing, you owe it to yourself to change that right away. And that's what we did. That meeting, we asked ourselves the question, like, are you happy? No, not really. Well, what would make you happy? And this idea of, you know, fully virtual established operation with an inside sales team, an office. A year later, we find ourselves in an office, inside sales team. Like, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into there, other than we asked ourselves the question, what is going to make us happy? And we went for it. and like nothing was getting in the way. So, you know, those are some of the things that, you know, if you're listening to this, I hope you can, you know, let that sink in. And I just, you know, life's too short.
Awesome. Well, so I was thinking, so we got technically 6 minutes left. I just want to see a few of the questions that came on the Q&A. Corel, how do you find partners in markets? What exactly do you use them for to look at properties? Okay. Well, in my opinion, the easiest way for you to find partners to kind of help you with some of that is Facebook, without a question. Like, you know, if you have a market, Instagram, so Facebook, LinkedIn even possibly, but you'll find like the thing about Facebook is it's the groups, right? The groups are very, very powerful. And if you're not already tied into like an educational mastermind group, there's all sorts of Facebook groups. So just go and research, you know, if you're pick your market, Austin investment group, you'll find dozens of groups. Start joining those groups, start reading the feed, start connecting with people, and you'll quickly find, you know, people that you can connect with. And I think the really important thing, and I made this point really early on, is it's like this synergy of like values that are very, very important. At least, yeah, I think Steve would agree. Like because there's a lot of wholesales out there, right? But not everyone is going to align with, you know, what it is that you stand for. So you want to kind of talk to a lot of people and make those contacts and connections. And once you do, you'll find people that are willing to collaborate, work with you. They kind of have that big vision. So that's going to be the easiest way for you to make those connections. The other thing I like too is we're obviously creating a Facebook group too. So, and that's going to be made up of people like right all over the country and Canada too. So you may find somebody in that group might be in the market that you're looking to get into, or maybe you're already in it, and they may be able to help you out. So I wanted to share that.
Do you tell the seller that potential buyer, okay, that the person's a potential buyer that you are marketing it to? I think so. I'm looking at Trevor's question there. What is the expectation setting process? So that's in reference to, you know, when we have one of our VIP buyers go out to the property, basically meet with the seller there, and then we've prearranged everything in advance. So yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, it really just depends on the situation. I always think that honesty is the best policy. You know, it kind of just, for a lot of people, it's counterintuitive. And they try to like hide the fact that they're wholesaling a property, or they may not be buying the property. And generally speaking, what I say to the person is I say, look, you know, we have, in this particular instance, you know, someone that we've done a lot of business with, this property actually is right in their wheelhouse. So they're far better suited to close on it than we are. You're still like same things. Like there's no closing costs. You're not paying us any commissions. We'll work something out on the back end with them, but you know, they are the buyer. Like they are the person that would be closing on this property. And so, you know, just to know that I'll be handling the negotiations and the talks and all that, but they are the person that ultimately would be buying this property. And it goes well. I think people try to like, there's so many things that you can do to talk yourself out of something and make up all these reasons as to why it won't work. But it's a simple, honest truth is just that it works every time. And if someone's not okay with that, then I feel really bad for them, because they're going to be having a lot of conversations with other wholesalers or investors that aren't telling them the truth, and they'll find out the hard way. I don't know if Gina's still on here, but I just wanted to make one thing. Gina mentioned early on in the call, she's a Los Angeles investor currently buying in Atlanta. So Gina Tang.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to follow up with her. Yeah, that's awesome. Sure. And Trevor, awesome. Thanks for being here, Trevor. We met Trevor, if you remember, Steve, we met him, I think it was at the Commercial Empire event. I'm pretty sure it was
yes.
Over a year ago. So he's in Florida. That's awesome. I'm glad you made it here, Trevor. Good to see you, buddy. Let's see here. What type of list do you all market to? Is another one from Corel. Again, like we have, quite honestly, like marketed to all of them. High equity. Well, let me touch on what we're doing right now. So our best performing lists right now, tax delinquent lists, because we're kind of marketing at mass. We hit the high equity list because we need the data. We need lots of records to be able to do that. Absentee lists, vacant lists, tax liens. Those are probably the top 5 right now that we're seeing the best. But our top 2 really is sort of our high equity and our tax delinquent over the last sort of 6 months. We also we target pre-foreclosures and probates and those things as well. But again, title issues is something you kind of come to terms with and realize this is part of this business. There's certain lists that are going to likely lead you to more of those title issues, and so that's also something just to keep in mind when it comes to your marketing, because depending on the list and the lead, it could take you 3 times as long to get the thing to close. So you just got to factor that in, and definitely when it comes to negotiating, keep that in mind, because when you think about time and money, some of these more complicated closings, you want to make sure that you're buffering in bigger spreads into those deals, because it might take you 3 times as long and you could have worked 3 other leads in that same time. So something that one of our mentors taught us a while back, because we were having a lot of issues with late closings and stuff. Let's see here.
All right, Mike. We got Mike, Real Empire, I think, right? We saw him there. How do you track viable lead to contract plus viable lead to close contract?
Yeah, so we have our CRM. We use Podio that's set up. So we differentiate between a valid lead, which basically means we have the right phone number, and then the next level of qualification is what we call a valid interested. So that's really so viable lead is really that you have a real phone number, a real person, and then it goes valid interested. And so we track those. That's an important KPI for us when we look at our marketing, right? So it's one thing to get the phone to ring, but out of those phone calls that come in, how many of those are actually interested leads? So that's really important to track. And then we also have the next layer up from that is opportunity. So we get some of that sort of a light sense of interest, but is there a real opportunity for us to do something? So those are kind of the 3 layers. And then we track all of that to contract conversion. So it's basically just, they're individual numbers that we track. It's all managed through our CRM. And then we use a tool called Plecto, which is awesome. It's basically a company based out of the Netherlands, and they have like an integrated visual dashboard. So we have that synced with our CRM. So once everyone comes back to the office, we'll have TV monitors up, and we'll have all these cool dashboards that basically track our acquisition goals, our marketing, our sales dispo goals. And so we basically just kind of break it down. But I can show some of that when we do our marketing meetup and go deeper into that for you.
How do you keep employees motivated and encouraged to keep performing without burning them out? I mean, there's I'm not kidding. There's been times where we have had to tell, like, guys, like, this is a stat holiday. Like, take this holiday off. And we're bad, Josh and I, because, like, I think a lot of times, maybe it's a bit like I really feel like it's a leadership thing. Like, that's one part. Like, Josh and I are we're there, and we're putting in the time, and we're super passionate about what we do. I think the other thing, like, is really understanding their why, right? And like what they're about, and helping them. Here's the thing is that the more you can help someone achieve their goals, and you guys have heard this before, you will achieve your goals in the process as well, and it's a lot more fun. And so that's something that we really focus on, personal development, and really understanding like what drives our people, the people that are in our team, and what is their why, like what are they looking to accomplish, what are their dreams, visions, goals, and really understanding all that stuff, and getting like super vulnerable with the things that we're looking to accomplish. And because it's in those moments when, like, for instance, like, we're going through COVID, this pandemic, and it is tiring and it's exhausting. And every day seems like it's like the same as the day before. And, there's a thousand excuses. as to why you could just sit on your couch and say, okay, let's not do this anymore. Um, it's those things that keep you going. It's the contact, it's the videos, it's the, hey, look, we're in this together. It's like this band of brothers and like this family that we have. I say band of brothers, but I mean it's a reference, but like there's obviously females too, right? So there's this collective purpose, this higher purpose that we're all looking to achieve, and you're not going to get there by doing things half-assed. And so we won't, if someone comes into our organization with that attitude, they won't last. And Josh and I won't be weeding them out. That's the thing. They just won't fit in.
No. I will say, like, we are, mindful of burnout, right? Because we all are fortunately surrounded by a team of people that are really committed. We certainly try to encourage that balance, and family is one of our core values. And so at the end of the day, like, that is, I know, important to everybody that's on our team. And we make that a priority, and we give people, the flexibility to do that, right? And there's a ton of accountability and autonomy for people to kind of dictate the priority. Just everyone is committed to that bigger vision. And
Hold on, let's just do this. I'm putting Lucas on the spot here. Lucas, what's up, buddy? Hold on, let's unmute you. How do I do this?
Oh, you want to unmute Lucas?
You need to unmute him.
All right.
Lucas, you're ready? Now, Lucas is 20, 21?
I don't think I can unmute him. Hang on.
Oh, he can unmute. Okay, never mind. I was going to put Lucas on the spot. He's been with us the longest, so he's seen it all.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's a great question.
Communication is key, like finding opportunities as a team to come. Like, we have video calls daily, level 10, like team meetings. We have huddle calls within our respective departments every day. We use Slack as a communication channel. So just keeping the communication open, and just listening, and creating an environment that it's kind of like this virtual open door, right? Like, I think I would hope everyone feels like they were getting to that point. They would tell us about it, or we would know, and we'd try to get ahead of it. So it just kind of comes down to, listening to people and being a good leader, I guess.
And so Lee is, what's funny here is Lee is on this call. So Lee's one of our dispositions people. What's up, Lee? And he's probably saying something smart ass right now, thinking that we can hear him, but we can't. So he's listening to this, and then he's also setting appointments for, now he pops up. I don't know who put him there. But he's also now setting appointments at the same time. I don't know, like, I know what drives Lee, and I know why he's doing that at 7:30, almost 8 o'clock his time, right? Because Lee's purpose is far greater than the time he puts in, and he wants to see us succeed, probably even more so than himself. And that's what drives him.
Cool.
And he wants to go to Augusta.
Yes, he does.
That's probably even the Masters. Yeah, it's probably even the bigger reason why he does what he does.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I just quickly, I know we're over time. Shenyi, you help people sell properties. Absolutely. If you have opportunities you want to talk about, love to collaborate with you, especially if it's in Texas or Georgia. But frankly, if it's in any decent market, we're pretty well connected with people right across the country. So definitely reach out either through Facebook or through Meetup, and we can jump on a call and talk about that. Steve B, when you started, where did you get financing? So as a wholesaler,
credit cards.
Well, sure. Okay. If he's talking business financing, yeah, credit, lots and lots of credit. We've been pretty much self-funded through basically every deal, reinvested. But yeah, credit card, line of credit have been, I guess, a lifeline for us. And as a startup company, any opportunity you can do to get credit, even if you're not using it, it's a good idea. Unfortunately, we secured a bunch of credit before all this happened. So has helped us out as well. So in terms of project financing, if you're asking about flips and those sorts of things, there's tons of great hard money lenders. We know a lot of them that can kind of help you with financing. But as a wholesaler, we other than earnest money we tie up on our contracts, which is usually no more than $1,000, but typically more like $100. We don't really require any capital to tie up our properties. Our biggest expense is in marketing and our people, right? That's really the expense that drives our company. What is the biggest hindrance at the moment to doing a deal online or virtual? Well, beyond COVID, really not.
Well, I guess if I were thinking of right now in this very moment, it's access, right? We've had a number of situations where we've had a lot of interest and we can't get people in that need to see the property.
Yeah.
Title, right, Sabrina? There's delays in title, county offices being closed. Getting title commitments back. Those sorts of things have caused delays. Buyers, right? That a deal a month ago is a little bit more of a risk now, and perhaps there's situations where not so much with us, but there's situations where they'll screw the escrow deposit, like keep the earnest, and I'm out of this deal. Like I'll lose the money, and I don't want to buy it. So I think that there's just a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think from a seller side, the biggest thing that we're having to overcome from an acquisitions perspective is this, and it's starting to shift. We're already starting to notice this, but for the last month, it's been like I'm going to wait to see what happens. Like, first of all, I don't want anyone coming in my house, and the whole concept of not having is one thing, or so I think that as we're getting more used to being in the situation, people are becoming more and more comfortable with doing things virtually. But yeah, I guess those are kind of the few things that come to mind here over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
That's good. Coral provided the schedule for the next trainings yet. So the plan is every 2 weeks. So if you're obviously connected in the meetup, you'll see the next one is 2 weeks today. I think the plan is we'll just probably keep rolling Wednesdays if that seems to work. So the next one would be, what would that be?
2 weeks from now. So it'd be the
13th. May 13th would be the next meetup, 4 o'clock Pacific. Okay. And Olivia, would you recommend to hire a remote acquisition specialist? Well, I guess that kind of depends, not knowing much about your business, but Steve, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing, like we've done this, right? And this is just our experience, and kind of going back to, like this is what you want to make of it, right? So if that kind of fits within your vision of what you want to do, then do it. There's going to be challenges. You're going to have issues. You're going to have, how do you performance manage? How do you train properly? How do you keep track of, where, different sorts of things? Like, so for us, we've tried that, and, it worked to a certain degree, but you lose a lot of visibility when, our acquisitions team is all in the same room, and we're having sales calls, and we're having huddles and team meetings and all these things. Like there's more training that I can provide, and they can provide each other just by being in that close proximity that you don't get when you're doing remote acquisitions, right? So for us, we've tried that. It's not that it didn't work for us. It's just it didn't work for it didn't work for us. It doesn't mean it can't work.
And then keep in mind too, we are virtual, right? So if he's referring to remote within a remote market, everything you've just touched on, Steve, makes sense. But ultimately for us, like if you're looking to scale up a virtual company, having these people close to you, makes a ton of sense. There's not really any advantage of having someone local unless you're wanting them to go on appointments and do those sorts of things, which is not our business model. And And I think most people are really shifting to this virtual model. Cool. And then just kind of closing it out here. I'm not 100% sure on the question, but how is the team meeting happening now? So yeah, this is Zoom. So we are using Zoom. This is a Zoom webinar. There's lots of different tools out there, but yeah, we're hosting this through Zoom.
No. Team meeting. So our meetings with our team, like, yeah, right
Zoom,
now,
yeah.
our meetings are all through Zoom. We have an acquisitions meeting every morning at 8 o'clock. And really the focus there is just all around mindset, getting our mind right for the day, right? Talking about things that are, we go through some deals. We look at our hot list of properties. We get our mind right. And then Josh, we have dispositions meetings.
Yeah.
Once a week, we have a level 10 meeting. We call it a hang 10 meeting. And that's with everyone. I have cold call meetings every Monday and Thursday at 1:30 with the team out in the Philippines. So yeah, everything we do is through Zoom. It's been that way before, for a while now.
Yeah, it's a great tool and it's affordable. Yeah.
If it is Zoom meeting, can I join? I'll be muted. Look, I don't have an issue with that at all. I think, it's actually something that
talk about. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we can talk about. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We'll just have to set that up. We're not quite set up for that yet, but certainly something we could look at doing.
Awesome. Cool. I think that's all of our questions. Yeah, appreciate everyone taking the time here. Again, we'll keep in contact through the meetup. Please, check out the Facebook group. Lots of updates there, and then obviously connecting, with Steve and I directly on Facebook and Instagram would be great too. We'll send out a follow-up kind of questionnaire just to get some feedback on this. So obviously, we want to continue to kind of direct the content and conversation so that it's the most value to everybody. But other than that, again, thank you. Like, obviously we went a little over and we had some great numbers, great attendance today. So that's really exciting. Appreciate it. Steve, anything else from you?
No, you know what? I really appreciate everyone being on. I know that there's a lot more content that, you're looking for, and we're hoping that we can provide you with some answers, right? And make this more interactive. So, really appreciate you being here, showing up, being a part of this. Again, we're available on social media. We hope to be producing more things that hopefully can help. So really appreciate your time, and just remember, look, we're in this together, right? We're all here to help each other out, and at the end of the day, like, that's really what matters. So, I encourage everyone to keep going, right? And to just believe that you have whatever it's going to take to get through it, you have it inside of you, and just to keep moving forward, just one step in front of the other. And some days it's going to seem like you're running, other days it's going to seem like you're walking or barely even crawling. But you can get through it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great evening. Look forward to chatting with you in 2 weeks, if not sooner.
Where can I find your Facebook group? Sorry, the Facebook group is the Virtual Real Estate Group.
Yeah.
On Facebook.
We'll post. What we'll do is we'll send out to the meetup, Steve. We'll just. I know you think you sent that out earlier. We'll send it out again, just with all the links and stuff like that, so everyone can easily connect. All right.
Thanks everyone.
Okay. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.